Chapter 94. The idea of reincarnation. However, I have to adapt myself to the thinking of the people I've chosen that cannot be changed by any other way but by their free will opening to the Father. And the greater the opening, the more receptive is the man, the more powerful and precise teaching of mine or of the Father he can present to others. Therefore, by associating and cooperating with each of them, I have to adjust myself to the spiritual receptivity of that man and to his trust in the Father and in me. While in the human flesh, I had also to adjust myself to your capability of understanding my teaching, which I was carrying to you, of my gospel, which I brought to you, and which you also forgot without even having allowed it to spread out its wings so that it would have risen and enveloped all of humankind. The Orient rejected Christianity as the Western religion invented by you and replaced it with other different beliefs which had no soil in which my gospel could take root. Therefore, the idea of reincarnation, the idea of soul transmigration through many lives became firmly established to them and in them. Even some of the messengers I chose were unable to fully deliver themselves from the idea of reincarnation. Therefore, some of them received my teachings tinged with a touch of the information vibrations of their subconsciousness that contaminated even the present-day teachings with the idea of reincarnation. I'll have to put up with these distortions, or else I shall not have a better choice in one or another place. Therefore, do not get surprised once you come across my teachings, which also mention the idea of reincarnation. However, I commend my apostle and the Father's ambassador, and I am glad I can use him to give you my teachings, which are the least distorted by his subconsciousness. And now I'm telling all of you, the time has come to know that the concept of reincarnation has very recent roots in the history of humanity, just several thousand years. And prior to that, during all the time, my spiritual messengers sent over to you, both in the human flesh and in a form invisible to you and operating through the man prepared for this purpose, were explaining to you more profound truths of God, which were free from any reincarnation idea. Reincarnation is not a part of the plan of the Father's creation meant for man. The Father needs from you just the very initial step, your faith in Him of your own free will. And it is absolutely unimportant what life experience you will have accumulated, good or bad, or even very bad. But your faith is sufficient confirmation that you might be called to your post-mortal resurrection. However, the Father does not torment you, and thus He does not make you have a multitude of lives just because you might have an experience of evil. Such a Father would not be a loving Father. Such a God simply cannot exist. He is not the source and center of love. Therefore, it is only love that emanates from Him, and no man is left behind to repeat his lives until the Father's hard heart is softened by an endless repetition of man's lives, and ultimately the Father would get satisfied with such a suffering of man, and He would tell him, enough. You are sufficiently good to come to me, and do not go back to the earth to repeat your incarnations to learn more. Such a father could not be the source and center of love, for he would contradict his own evolutionary plan designed by him and implemented by him to perfect an imperfect creature up to his own level exclusively by means of the force of love rather than by the force of pain or out of fear of being tormented. Such a father has never been and cannot be. Such a God has been invented by you, while distorting the spiritual teachings of those whom I sent to you as my messengers. Therefore, now I am repeating to you, the Father is only love. He urges you through His Spirit, indwelling each of you, and through me, that you would turn towards Him and feel Him within yourselves, and then you will have your faith in the Father's reality, and you will experience His love vibrations within yourselves, and you will clearly begin to see that there cannot be any reincarnation, that you would come back to this world and live again in pain and suffering to become better. Even a murderer can convert himself in a gentle son of God, if only he is able to discover the Father within himself. But for a murderer to pass through this transformation is much more difficult, and there is no guarantee that he will ever desire to convert himself in comparison with one who is fair and consciously and sincerely seeking the Father, and who is just confused and at a loss and unaware of the fact that the Father must be sought within his own self. You must also know that mortals are making just the first step into eternity. You do not even comprehend the meaning of this very word, eternity. Therefore, you believe in the distortions of reality, such as transmigration of man's soul into another human body, to accumulate greater experience and to become more perfect. You are unable to comprehend the operation of the true reality principle of cause, action, consequence. Each action has its cause and consequence. Once you desire to become a better one, this desire is the cause for you to perform such action that imperceptibly would make you into a better one. If the action is better, your inner sensation will also be more pleasant. And all this transpires of one's free will. If you desire to walk to the Father, this desire will be the cause for you to begin to search for a path to Him. And the consequence of this search will be your discovery of Him, while the consequence of this discovery will be your resurrection in a higher form of your own self, in the form of the soul. However, if you do not desire the Father, if you do not desire to become a better one, if you do not desire to stride into eternity, then you will live in such a way that you will not look in this direction. And this will be done by you of your own will. Meanwhile, the consequence of this turning away from the Father will be the disappearance of your own self, since after the death of your material body, you will not be resurrected in any form, because such will have been your personal choice of your own free will, to turn away from the Father. This is the operation of the principle of cause, action, consequence. You are responsible only for your personal actions and for the decisions of your own free will. However, your personal free will actions make life harder for the environment and for the whole if they are directed against the whole, against the Father, and to the contrary, if they are directed for the benefit of the whole, the life of the whole is made easier, more enlightened. But it is not karma that man has to work off in other lives for his errors and for errors of his parents. The principle of cause, action, consequence operates within an individual's life as well as within that of the whole. Yet this reciprocal operation is always based on free will action. And the vibrations of the same love of the Father always envelop that individual or all those who act. And it is a live feeling of these vibrations within oneself that transforms man's character from bad to good, rather than a ransom working off of one's karma, a redemption of sins, even the sins of one's parents. And this transformation happens to a very small number of people, for they do not know how to search for a path to this inner transformation, since these misleading ideas of reincarnation do not point to this path. They only intimidate man that he again will have to return to this world many times to work off his karma. And the fact that he might already today experience his relationship with the Father if he directed his sight to discover the Father within himself, rather than attempting to work off his non-existing karma without, is not taught by any religion, including the one promoting reincarnation. Therefore, the time has come for you to learn from me, Christ, who is the one of the creators and rulers of your universe, and who is known to you as Jesus of Nazareth, that the concept of reincarnation must be dissolved in the ocean of the vibrations of the Father's love, which bathes your every living cell, and which is awakening your true self, which, to your great surprise, you would begin to see, and which will be difficult to recognize even for your own present fake self, controlled by the mind of animal inclination. Do you not desire that love and peace would reign within your own selves, and that all the anguish and suffering, anger and irritation, revenge and jealousy, bad thoughts and bad designs would disappear? And your own self has been particularly created in this manner by the Father in his own image, full of love, truth, mercy, service, goodness, beauty, and compassion. It is the character possessing these traits that makes up the image of your true self for creation and for the Father. It is this sort of self that you become once you discover the Father and once you are born of the Spirit. However, if you fail to achieve these qualities of character of your true self, but you are still sincerely pursuing a deeper knowledge of the Father and trying of your own free will to find the Father, even without having knowledge where to search for him, and if you desire to submit yourself to the leading of God, if you believe in this leading, even though there is still a lot of pain, suffering, anguish, jealousy, anger, revenge, and other animal inclinations within your own self. Thus, even in this case, you shall be resurrected from the material sleep of death. And you will be resurrected, possessing exactly the same negative or positive qualities of your character. And your further perfecting will take place in the soul form, in such a form that will not be your material body anymore. This will be a body of higher energy vibrations, visible to you, yet having no blood, bone, or muscle. Therefore, it will be healthy and serve your spiritual growth on a higher and better level than your weak material body. However, your further path of progress is still far from the center of perfection, from the source of perfection, the Father on Paradise. Therefore, even on this higher level, you will have to study quite a lot, even though you have achieved, according to your understanding, great spiritual heights in this world. Then you will notice what greater spiritual heights open up before you that you will have had no idea of altogether. Therefore, to follow an erroneous concept of reincarnation that you have to abundantly experience on this world in order to be perfected is your naivety because of your ignorance. Perfection is not a goal, but rather a process. And in order to take part in it willingly, you must not stand in one place or turn downwards, but rather progress only forward, and all the time forward, to where you have not yet stepped before, to what has not yet been experienced before. And this principle of cause, action, consequence is pulsating throughout creation. Not a single creature can escape it. Whatever situation it might be in, and whatever spiritual level it might reach. This, in case of reincarnation, if you believe in this doctrine, you shall have no peace in your life. If you replace it by my present teaching, discover the Father within, you shall feel true love. Peace shall reign in your life. However, even though you believe in reincarnation, even though it helps you cherish greater hope that you will be luckier in your next life, even in such conditions of self-deception, if you sincerely believe in God, then after your death you will be resurrected in a higher form. Only then your previous concepts on reincarnation will lose their value, since the Father Spirit indwelling your mind also after your resurrection shall return to the higher mind of your soul, whose little sprouts you can even feel now, because it is the mind of the soul that urges you to turn towards a sincere seeking of God. And this mind of the soul will be cleaned of all that has no further meaning to your spiritual growth. And you will retain from your human experience only that information which influenced the growth and development of your better character. However, even this cleaning of the information shall not remove the qualities acquired by your former human character, nor those negative aspects which have not yet been eliminated. Positive qualities shall be developed and deepened by theoretical teachings and practical application of the knowledge, so that during the missions of service, positive qualities should take over the negative ones. You will be taught by the method of positive assertion rather than by the method of negative statement, which is currently employed on your world. Humankind, in its present development, affirms everything through negation. Do not do this. Do not behave like this. If you behave badly, you will suffer. All your laws are of a forbidding nature, and you follow the principle that once a law does not forbid anything, you may do it. And had you received the good tidings, the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, that I brought to you, your laws would have already been developed from forbidding to affirming, and the Father's love and the principle of cause-action-consequence would be reflected in them, so that you would also introduce these two essential things to the whole of creation, to your children at a very early age. You are also a part of this very creation of the Father. You are not beyond the boundaries of creation. It is just your spiritual darkness that does not allow you so far to see that the true law can be only one, the Father's love. Therefore, after your resurrection, you will begin your studies from the positive and true law of the Father's love, and you will see in what manner it operates in reality. And for you, who today still have anger, it will not be possible to maintain this quality for long, as you will feel love around you and care shown for you. In this environment, anger loses its basis. And after a while, your character will also lose this negative emotion that is harmful to your spiritual growth, as well as it is destructive to every living and material cell of your body.